now open the floor for Q&A. And colleagues, we're very pleased to have participation today from the field, from headquarters, as well as the regional office. And with thanks to HLCM Secretariat, we also have had extended invitation to Finance and Budget Network, which are contributors for initiatives like this.
I must say this is an amazing year-end gift for a lot of colleagues that are very busy closing the accounts and dealing with finances and treasury these days. And definitely, like it's exciting to see. I have been following this initiative from its get-go up to date, because the UNSDG Business Innovation Group has prioritized DHoTS as one of the most impactful global service and encourages all the agencies to utilize it. Hence, we are having all these informational webinars that colleagues could understand more about this at the field level as well as at the corporate and regional level. So today we have a lot of colleagues that has joined us from Treasury offices, from Finance and Budget Network of the High Level Committee of Management, and from the field. And it would be good to start an interaction and hear more from you and how the system is enabling more transparent and secure treasury and payment system for the UN in general. And with that, maybe we can start, Carmen and Samir, with the aspect of the readiness. I mean, a couple of years ago, this solution was just UNHCR and UNDP. IOM came on board later, and now we have we can see a coalition of agencies that have already trusted this system and are co-governing it. From an internal decision-making perspective and the readiness factors, basically, what are the key aspects for an agency to be ready to start using the solution, and also what holds them? What could be like certain aspects that could delay onboarding or kind of like hold agencies from onboarding into the system? And from your experience of managing this for many years now, how can they address them? Over to you.
Yeah, I can maybe start. So
please.
The key here is that the solutions, I'm reading some of the questions as well. So the solutions, every organization is still running its own source system. So our solutions are agnostic to your ERP system. So you will still run your pay cycles. And once your pay cycles are approved, then it connects to that channel. So DHoTS is like a channel, and there are some rules to connect to the channel, yes. And that needs to be obviously complied with, and that's where we are talking about the standardization and the seamless connection from your source systems to the digital hub of Treasury Solutions, and then to the country. In the country, of course, like I said, there are regulatory, restrictions, and obviously we need to work with the regulators. So this model also can work that we actually have pre-approved access to that particular country. So difficult countries, the UN has already worked together, like in Afghanistan, or we're looking now into Syria, and really difficult countries. So once we have a standardization in place, functionally from a treasury perspective, but also from a technical perspective. So the onboarding actually, I could say actually it's easy. It's easy because we know the rules, how anyone can come to the channel. Yes, there needs to be some tweaking as always, but the key is ultimately you are in charge of your processes as you know them today in your own organization. We are not taking over any of your processes. You will approve payments. You will make sure, whether your vendor data is up to scratch with, the partners that you have to pay, the suppliers you have to pay, the staff that you have to pay. So all of this is well understood, how we get this all connected. So I would say from a functional perspective, we are really more than ready So this is Treasury talking. So I will hand over to Samir from a technical side of things.
Thank you, Carmen. I think absolutely the trigger has to come from within the organization, and the green light has to come from the Treasury to say this is something that they would like to utilize and explore going forward. Without naming names, one of the partners who joined later in one of the sessions, Carmen, that we had run jointly a few months ago, the trigger for them was the migration to the new ERP. And as they migrated to the new ERP, they also thought this is the right time to rethink what are their treasury payments rails, and they explored DHoTS and realized this would be a great answer for them. So as part of the migration, they connected their ERP into DHoTS, and I remember the treasurer saying that it worked like magic. They could connect, and once the ERP went live, within a couple of days of testing, and they could start dispersing payments to all the banks that DHoTS already connected to. So I think that's the point I was making about how quickly you can realize value. Is you have to find the right flipping point or the right trigger where you say, okay, from this point on out, I'd like to start utilizing DHoTS, understand it, of course, better. How do you connect? What's the value you get? What are the reports you get? What are the details you'll have? But you are 80% of the way there already, because this is a functioning, scalable solution that's been running, as Carmen said, successfully for 3 years. Yep. So maybe I'll stop there. I know there are lots of other questions. So,
thank you, Carmen and Samir. Maybe we stay there on the aspect of the control and security of the payments. From a security standpoint, how is the transactions protected end to end when payments are initiated from the field? That's one question that colleagues have raised. But a related question is, in case if there is a cyber incident or attempt to breach, what happens operationally for the field offices? Does the payment stop, or what is the measures that are in place in the system?
I can maybe start again. So the key is that we are supported, with a technology stack that has been evaluated, and that's where UNICC comes in as well. So we are not experimenting in any shape or form. So we have contracted also with providers that are in that business to give us banking technology in that sense. So, and each time we implement or a new stack, if you like, we have now technology stacks available to us, and they can be accessed, whether it's HQ running a pay cycle or whether it's the field running a pay cycle. These solutions can be accessed from anywhere in the world. We just need to see, how UN organizations are generally decentralized. So Treasury is normally centralized, but we still have a lot of payment activity and generating pay cycles at the local level. So here we are obviously not talking, I mean, we can still do a cash payment, encashment in cash, if that is necessary, and instruct the bank also through the DHoTS to have an encashment in cash. But the key here is, to make sure that we really have an infrastructure that can have all modalities, to have modalities, whether it's a normal SWIFT payment, have modalities that can be a card payment, a mobile payment, a digital wallet payment, digital assets, crypto, if you like. So this is the technology stack that we have readily available, and cybersecurity is a very complex area. So I will hand over to Samir on cybersecurity, but there are some standards in place.
certainly. Thank you, Carmen. Also, a point to note, some of the UNICC colleagues, Taram and Ben especially, who've been working closely on DHoTS with Carmen and others, they will respond in the chat. So they'll try and pose more detailed answers than I have. But yes, cyber, especially because that is one of the strong capabilities that UNICC has. Our cyber team has been working side by side with the sponsoring organizations from the beginning. And both the core infrastructure that's operating this, the connectivity to the banks, has gone through rigorous security checks. We do annual pen tests and annual verification to make sure that the connectivity remains secure. We are also looking into ways to secure the end-to-end capabilities of DHoTS. So, for example, any of the colleagues who are involved in operating the infrastructure, we are making sure that they go through rigorous security checks, their devices go through rigorous security checks, so they have secured endpoint devices and so on. So what we're trying to do is, cyber comes at it from a very different perspective. They look at it independently, and they then make a series of recommendations to say, how do you ensure that every single control point and every single aspect that can be secured is secured to the best extent possible. And the same thing applies when we do upgrades. So, for example, we just went through a massive upgrade of the underlying FIS infrastructure, FIS platform. So part of the upgrade cycle is also to ensure that from a security perspective, once the upgrade is done, it doesn't create any issues or complications.
Thank you, Samir. Thank you, Carmen. I can see Jose's hand is raised. Jose, can please come in?
Yes, of course. I have a question probably for Samir. Maybe you can shed some light on this. You've mentioned, you just talked about cyber, and also in your presentation, you mentioned something about agentic AI. I'm curious to know, what is the DOT doing in this regard to improve future services, and what can the UN agencies do to prepare themselves for this new uprising technology? Oh.
Thank you. So actually, believe it or not, I think Carmen would be better suited to answer this, because broadly, I can tell you about what agentic AI is and the different contexts in which we can see it being used. But we are customer driven. So DHoTS, we are the technology experts, but it's the customers, the business owners, which is the treasurers of the system. They are saying, this is where I'd like to see agentic AI be used, but with the right controls, right checks and balances in place. Given this, the volume of data, volume of money that's flowing through these pipes, and B, the sensitivity of where this is going, we very much want it to be led by the business, which is the treasurer. So for them to decide what kind of agentic AI, when, and with what controls in place. But with that, Carmen, maybe I'll let you share your thoughts.
Yeah, the business case, we are not implementing technology for its sake. So we want to make sure we understand the business case and ultimately the efficiencies that we can achieve. And we are currently also assessing, all the efficiencies and the savings, the savings that we have for agentic AI going forward. We need to base on the data streams, and that's what we are working on right now, to have an automated AI cash flow forecasting. And from there, we then have all the data streams to look at what we would actually do in the agentic. I mean, we can think of use cases like in foreign exchange, for example. If you have an account that doesn't have enough funds in it, the pay from bank account, that bank account, that you can do a foreign exchange linked to a main account, and obviously you can basically turn on, and it's already done. So this is not me inventing anything here. This is like, how you actually are in real time conversion on whether it's US dollar to field currencies, and obviously there are correlations to currencies, and that's why I was also talking about the value of risk that we can use as a methodology to substantiate actually the risk that each and every organization has also on foreign exchange, and how we actually replenish the accounts from which we work from or the pay from, and where the money actually is coming in. So there's a matching between the money coming in and the money going out, and also going forward. So forward, we would have, like UNHCR has an account in stable coins minted with Circle, for example. So there will be other accounts, not like bank accounts like we saw, like we understand it today. So a lot of it in the agentic can actually be executed. Obviously, not everything will sort of run all by itself. So there will be some sort of control stoppers in that process to make sure that we are not making ourselves more vulnerable. But this is the future, and the future is really here today. So if I say, well, this is going to happen in 2 years' time, I think it's already happening now. And we need to have this readiness on our own treasury to be able to introduce this kind of technology as well. So, but I would say at the base is the business case. So we need to be able to validate, substantiate what are the efficiency gains from introducing technology as such.
Thank you, Jose, Carmen, and Samir.
Thank you.
Going ahead with the next couple of questions, maybe I could combine some of them. Threefold question, I would say. The first one, Carmen, would be what is the immediate change that a field office would see from implementation of DHoTS? What would be basically the efficiencies that they can see into their day-to-day work? And then the second part of the question, which are related, are about the countries that are working, or colleagues that are working in sensitive locations, high-risk environments, how DHoTS help them stay compliant with, let's say, sanction-sensitive transactions without slowing down the payments. And the last part of this, which is also related, is that, Samir, is there a AI agent already on board that looks into the sanctions? And if yes, which ones? That's an interest from some of our colleagues. Over to you, please.
Yeah, so I will start. So UNHCR many years ago now, I think about 5 years ago, something like that, we already introduced a sanction bot. Basically we do sanction checking before the payment even occurs. So we know that the UN has privileges and immunities, but nevertheless we need to work through the banking system. So we can check against any sanction listing as we seem fit. That's one. So, and the other thing is from the field office. So like I explained a little bit before, the decentralization of UN organization means that you still have at the field level, through the ERP where people actually prepare their pay cycles. And then we need to have the pay from bank. So it's always linked to a pay from account. And it's facing, of course, the banking relationships that the UN has. So the Treasury Group for Common Treasury Services, of whom I'm a co-chair as well, and the other co-chair is at the UN Secretariat. That means that we have master banking agreements, and the banks that we work with, they know how we actually work internally on this sanction, very sensitive issues, and how these payments, are coming through. And I think that DHoTS, so the Digital Hub of Treasury Solution, its channeling can really assist these processes, because we will have first, it's not the channel that is magic. The magic comes more from the banking relationships with whom we work and who ultimately validate our transactions and basically execute these transactions. So the key is here that we would have an orderly way of transacting. Of course, we clear the sanctions, whether we use RPA or robotics. So a lot of things can come into this. Of course, the bank will still do its own checkings. That is for sure, with their own systems, and their own systems are more and more AI driven as well. So all of this needs to be obviously considered. But I think overall we would have better standardization, how these transactions are actually processed, one, and they are secure, two, and from the outgoing, so the outbound transactions from the field office, what will make the difference is that each field office would have access to the channel, so outbound, to instruct the bank with whom you are working. And then you would get a statement back right there and then that this transaction has been executed successfully. And if done right, then we can actually have this bank statement reconciled, automated. So, you know, this is the power of the technology. But if I explain to this, it's you know, I explain it sort of in sort of simple terms, but we obviously from a treasury perspective, and also anyone in finance, in accounts receivable, accounts payable, would understand that, you know, there are few things associated and to get this right. So automated bank reconciliations at every level, reconciliations generally have to be automated. And you know, that should be a process where you just look at exception reporting and not doing actually manually reconciliations. So and also the financial control then would be automated. So a lot of things come together. But it's a good question, of course. We ultimately want to have HQ and the field. Everything needs to be connected with the partners that we work with, and then that we can execute these payments. So I stop here.
Thank you, Carmen. And on the third part of the question, Samir, that you framed on agentic AI. So the simple answer is, I think we're taking it step by step. So we know there are potential use cases or scenarios where we can use agentic, but for now, we're starting with laying the foundations. So all the partner organizations who are part of this have agreed to build unified treasury data lakes. So we start to bring all the data together. And then we are working through ideation and conception of what could these agents look like. But hopefully by early next year, we'll have a much better idea what these agents could look like. And then we start testing them and saying, is this working in practice? Do we need to put stronger guardrails around it? Where do you define the thresholds, or where do agents, till what level do they operate before a human kicks in? So all of those are being thought through. So given the sensitivity of the work, we don't want to jump right in and as Carmen rightly said, we don't want to deploy technology for the sake of technology. We want to make sure that the stakeholders agree this actually adds value. It improves their life, it improves the quality of the platform. All of those criteria have to be met before we deploy something.
Let's look at the perspective of the agencies that are interested in joining the DHoTS soon. I hope very soon, do it before end of the year. So Carmen, maybe you could walk us through what the end-to-end onboarding journey could look like from the point that an agency expresses their interest all the way to the starting the use of the DHoTS. In terms of the timeline, and what would be like the practical minimum requirements that the agency will need to have in order to onboard to this system. And maybe another side question to this would be the ERP interoperability. Is there a particular ERP system that the DHoTS work with more, let's say, collaboratively or easily, or it's able to be integrated in all the existing ERP systems that the UN is using at the moment?
Yeah, I think it's a final question about everything. You want to know everything now.
Okay. I'm trying to cover everything.
So that's fine. No, that's fine. So I will start with the easy peasy things, which is ERP interoperability. Probably not easy peasy in that sense, but so currently we are already live with with Oracle Cloud ERP, and we're also live with SAP. So the key is it's not like we can't do it because there are other ERPs as well. So the key is that our channel is agnostic to whatever ERP you are using. So if you give us that first phone call and say, look, we are kind of interested, how do we go about it? Then we need to know in which countries, And, whether we can run a pilot where you want to make these payments, for example, we can start with payments. So we will not start with AI, we start with payments connectivity, and then see what are your banking relationships, where are your bank accounts to pay from. And we would have to get very practical. So what are these formats going to look like? Whether we're going to still do SWIFT payments, or whether we actually connect directly from our host to the banking host. So there are different technical ways of setting it up, or whether we actually do an API integration and things like that. But I will not go technical, but the key is that as a baseline, we need to know how many banks you need to have connected, which ones are more important, which ones maybe can come in a second stream. And so we can calibrate looking at this, how we would go forward. But we are doing this already. So if you say to us, look, we want to connect with SWIFT, we have already agencies as well that connect with SWIFT. Others connect host to host. We have host to host. We have something like 80 bank accounts connected to host, for example. So with different relationship banks. So the outward facing to the financial ecosystems, the banks, the non-banks with whom we want to work, of course, is also important. So you might have currently a set of financial service providers with whom you work, but when we then look at harmonization or rationalization of your approach, there's maybe other things that we can do as well. So they are banks, and they are counterparties which are better suited to work with, there's no doubt. So there's a bit of both that we need to look at, to which ones you need to connect. And I would then say, let's just look at, a small pilot and see how this actually in actual term works. Of course, we do have a costing. So we do have a costing on per transaction. So the service is not for free, but we are not making money on the back of that service, if I can talk like that. We still have bank fees, so you still have to pay bank fees. But if we do this right, then you will have reduced costs all around. So I can say that. But first, I think is also to get your own house in order. So a lot of it has to do with which banks you work, also that your vendor database, everything is also clean, So we need to work with clean data, and then how we structure the data, that it actually goes through an enriched, channel that has all sorts of checks and balances that we explained, and then how you basically get the statements back, the bank statements. That's key, that you get bank statements back. And for that, you have to, as an entity, you have to actually sign, agreements with the particular banks that they can come back and they report back to you. So there's some legal aspects as well, in which jurisdiction. But since it has been done, and since we actually know where the pain points could be, this is relatively easy. I would say that if you put the resources to it, you have a focal point, we have focal point, and we do one of those, those integrations, then, it can be done relatively quickly. So we're not talking about a year thing, we're talking about a month thing, but usually, the readiness also depends on your environment. And, we do understand today how a pay file looks like, whether it's generated at HQ or at the field level. And then how it needs to be integrated. Basically, then it gets connected, it gets consumed by this setup, and it reaches the bank or the non-bank, wherever the transaction needs to be executed. And if executed correctly, then you have a confirmation coming back, and different stages of confirmation that the transaction indeed has been successfully executed. So seemingly, as I explain it, honestly, it's not difficult. I wouldn't say that, if it were not true. So that's why I think everyone should really start to think about how you join this venture, because we are in an advanced stage and things can only get easier. If you go alone, it will just get more difficult. So here we are. I don't know if you want to add something, Samir.
No, thank you. You said it really well, but the proof is in the organizations that joined later, since the founders launched DHoTS, and they're not on the call today, but everything I've heard from them is their journey has been fairly seamless. So you articulated much better than I can, Carmen, how all the different aspects need to be thought through operationally, legally, financially, cleaning up your data. But I think we have the beginnings of a playbook now to say, here are all the different things you need to do. Where are you coming from? Here are the things you need to, steps you need to follow. Where do you need to connect? But absolutely, for the organizations who join later, it's a matter of months once they make up their mind, not years. That's the bottom line.
Perfect, Samir. You're already answering my next and final question from you as a service provider of the system. So, from UNICC's perspective, as the key contributor and manager of, let's say, this system, how do you see DHoTS evolving over the next few years, and in terms of technology, security, capability, and all? And what is the one or two key aspects that you anticipate from the UN agencies to prepare themselves for? You'll get 60 seconds, but then I want to hand over after that to Carmen as the founder of the DHoTS, that what is her basically expectation from the UN system now that the system is up and running, and there is many agencies that have started using it, and it's a trusted system. So Samir, and then Carmen, and we will close the session, please. Thank you.
Thank you. So the first point I want to note is we are customer driven. We were designed for the UN system. So in this case, it is the experts, the treasurers, who define the roadmap of where does this go next. So every new shiny technology does not need to be deployed, does not need to be used. It has to be thought through to say, is it fit for purpose? Does it make sense? Does it add value? That being said, 2 or 3 things stand out in my mind. One is AI. Of course, we've touched upon that again and again. Where can we bring in agentic AI, both for optimizing the transactions, optimizing FX, for example, but also putting the right safeguards and controls in place. So AI can be used to scan, to try and detect fraud, for example. So there are different scenarios. So we are bringing ideas to the table, but the decision makers are the treasurers who are using this and their organizations. So AI is one. Second is different parts of the UN system, including UNHCR, and we work with them on this, have successfully launched new payment rails using crypto. Stable coins and such. So how do you bring that into this portfolio in a seamless way, in an elegant way, and then that becomes an option that is made available in the right situations, in the field, on the ground. So that could be, from a technology perspective, another element that can be brought to bear here. And then the third, in my mind, is just optimizing this. And that, again, is led by the treasurers, where I think if you have more and more volume, then the organizations can go back and negotiate with banks. So over time, I think we can optimize those transaction fees, bring down the rates, so that in the midst of UN 80 and the challenges the system is facing today, we can do a bit to make sure that the money goes further. But I'll stop there. Carmen, over to you.
And for me, the expectation for the UN system, is to really adopt what we have built, because it's ready to go. It's about best practices in treasury and finance management. It's about using the center of excellence that we have established. Also, we were supported. So this initiative is supported also by the Swiss government to establish that center of excellence, which is in place. And, above all, it's about the business case. So this initiative really, delivers on all fronts, on the efficiencies, on the savings, on the best practices, on the functional and technical excellence that we actually deliver. So from a treasury perspective, on the functional side, and from a UNICC perspective, also on the technical side. So all these pieces have been put together to harness really across the UN system for collaborative opportunities, harmonization, collaborations. But the easiest way right now is that basically we all run our systems, our core systems, and we can actually connect to tooling and channels. And in this case, it's a financial channel that, you know, is really operated with the best in class backbone, dare I say it, from a treasury and from a technical perspective.
Start, Carmen, with the onboarding, particularly for the agencies that are not on board yet, and they are basically watching or observers of the process. What do agencies typically need to do in terms of their engagement with the DHoTS? How can they reach out? Are they able to test the system and have an experience of the other users that have already joined the coalition? What is your recommendation in that aspect?
Yeah. So I think onboarding actually, you know, could be pretty straightforward and easy, because we already have, you know, we already have agencies, the 15 odd engaged. So we have gone through our learnings. So anyone coming at this juncture will really benefit from what we are doing already. But essentially, you will have to get first your own house in order. So so it means that, you know, again, from which systems you actually generate these payments. So they can be different systems. They can be HR systems. They can be cash assistance payments. They can be accounts payable, partner systems. You know, so we have different source systems that generate ultimately these payments. And so we also need to make sure that, or you need to make sure that, you know, when the data is up to scratch and you have sort of validated all your data streams, and then we can introduce you to the different modalities and the different communication protocols. And anyone who has ever done any payments will understand what I'm explaining here. So that means then, you know, we do a matching from your source systems, that it actually matches then going through the channel, and it can reach the financial ecosystem where it needs to reach. And also the pay from devices, whether it's they pay from a bank account, or it can also be a digital wallet, or it can be pay from you know, from actually through the mobile network. So the various ways of looking at this, but our channel is pretty much standardized and streamlined. So the standardization, you know, we have a rules-based way of connecting. So this is pretty straightforward. Also, you know, the system is open. Also, if you need SWIFT payments, system is also open for SWIFT payments. So we really want to cater for all eventualities and all modalities, mechanisms, how we can reach where we need to reach. So it's also the last mile. So if we still need to pay out also cash, we can do that as well. So it's a comprehensive solution. So the issue is not on the onboarding. I think that anyone interested should get in contact with us, and then we can concretely speak about, we can take a few countries, we can take you know, a kind of pilot environment and start to engage. So I think that's important, that you understand, you know, what's at stake as well, or, you know, put some skin in the game. And you know, with us together, the consortium that is already hard at work. So I think overall easier it cannot get. So I think we have the expertise, functional, technical, and more to come, especially to support you in all the other aspects, also on the AI side of things, on the blockchain side of things. So there's more to come, and some of this expertise we can offer to this group easy enough.
Thank you, Carmen. That was very comprehensive. Let me open the floor, and I see Jose has his hand up. Jose, please come in.
Thank you, Samir, and sorry for the previous interruption. Yeah, I was going to ask a similar question in relation to the onboarding process, but then you just answered it, Carmen. One of my favorite parts of what you said before was that the solution is ERP agnostic, and we know for a fact that this can be an issue, right? Sometimes. I'm curious about the cost of the service. So having more agencies will probably produce efficiencies, and I'm curious to know if that will lower the cost for the participating entities. Over.
Yeah. So as I said, the business case is at the heart of that venture, and the best practices, and to also to make sure that we obtain these efficiencies. So it is about efficiencies and savings, whether it's one time, and efficiencies along the whole delivery chain. So it's not just about banking fees, it's also the time and effort that we spend on each and every transaction internally in our organizations, that everything really can put on different rails, not just the banking rails, but in general, from the creation, from a purchase order creation to a payment voucher, in that sense, approval of that payment voucher internally, whether it's, obviously we want to have this as much automated as possible. So everything should really go, pretty easy. It's still not quite easy. So I have been in this business for a very long time now. So things are not as I'm describing them right now. They should be easy, but they're still kind of difficult. And there's no reason for it to be difficult. And therefore, we have some estimates. So we have done that in the working group for common treasury services on the F2 initiative, where we are looking at UN Treasury services and cashier services as well, where we actually priced per transaction. So we have some figures, of course, that allows us to run this business model, and the more agencies that would join, yes, the less this cost should be, and the more efficiencies we have, because we will get faster in actually looking at these things. And today, the agencies that have already implemented have already a robust experience. So the key is that it would be pretty easy to onboard, and also to cost it for each and every agency, big or small. So that would be the idea. But ultimately, if we do this together, there's the other big equation, which is actually banking facing. So the financial institutions as well, we have a bargaining power together to get these services. So today, for example, our blockchain solutions are pretty much delivered digital currency at zero cost. So we are not talking here millions to get this going. Of course, if you're working still through the Swift infrastructure, then you have the Swift standard cost. So there's not much we can do on that. But we also have ways of connecting, which is host to host, which means it goes direct from your systems, our systems, goes to the financial service providers or the banks. So there are different ways of connecting, and also different protocols that we understand what the efficiencies are on each and every mechanism, how we pay. So there's a lot of know-how that we can offer to the group, and to tackle this together, because these things are by nature a little bit tricky from time to time. Once you understand it, it looks like a walk in the park, but if you don't understand it, it can get quite tricky. And we know that there are agencies right now looking at blockchain payments, for example. So, we have the expertise at UNHCR. We're already in this business now for 3 years. So it's, time flies. But so, we open this to anyone who wants to participate. The disbursement platform is ready to go. You run your payments. We tell you how you have to run the payments in a blockchain environment. And, that's how we see the future. So.
If I can just complement what Carmen was saying, my perspective, there are two other elements of cost that we need to think about, and which we can acknowledge that there are saves coming through by joining this consortium. One is the opportunity cost of how long does it take to get something like this, a modern infrastructure, a global infrastructure up and running, fully operational. So if an organization goes on their own and starts to do this, there's a massive cost involved and a time involved, rather than joining an existing consortium, an existing fully functional global solution. So there's a massive cost save right there upfront in joining the consortium. And then on an ongoing basis, the costs are lowered. I can speak from the technology perspective that the shared infrastructure, the more partners use it, the unit cost goes down. The second is there's a hidden cost in securing it. There's a hidden cost in building those AI tools on top of it. There's a cost involved in doing regular updates. And these platforms typically have at least 2 major upgrades a year. So all of those costs are shared by the consortium. It's done once. So the AI tool is rolled out, everybody can use it. It's secured, everybody benefits in the security, right? Upgrades done once, everybody is running on the most up-to-date upgraded platform. So there are massive saves along the way by being on this shared platform. Thank you.
Thank you, Samir. Thank you, Carmen. Thank you, Jose. Samir, maybe we can continue on that aspect of security from a technical point of view. How is the data protected end to end? This is a financial solution. This is a treasury solution. A lot of agencies that are observing might continue to observe until they see how it works with other agencies. How is the confidentiality and ownership of the data basically protected? What is your point of view from that aspect with the system now?
Well, I think cybersecurity and the technical thing. So it's a very good question because we need to be supported. So I think, generally speaking, treasurers, we have always been sort of working in a vacuum, and we sort of understand the external systems, but the key here is, yes, data protection, cybersecurity, and all this technical stuff. We really, from a functional perspective, I mean, we sort of understand it on the fringes, but we need experts to accompany us. So, sure. Samir, over to you.
Thank you. So yes, so we have a very large cybersecurity practice and a team that supports about 80 different organizations today. The cyber team has been actively involved in the design and are now in the operations of this platform. So everything from running regular security checks, I forget the regularity or frequency with which we do penetration testing, to securing the endpoints, securing the devices that the team that operates the platform use, hardening those devices. All of that is done by UNICC to make sure that, to the best of our abilities, we keep track of it. I believe the platform is monitored by a 24/7 SOC, a Security Operations Center. So external threats coming at it, we are trying to monitor it and watch it as closely as we can. In terms of data segregation of data between different organizations, I believe that's already built into the platform because it's a large commercial platform that is used by organizations globally. So it may be a common set of payment rails that are used to do the transactions, but the data flows, which comes typically from your corporate systems, your ERPs, your payroll systems, etc., your cash disbursement systems, they're secured from that point on out, and they just leverage these payment rails to connect to the bank and send the transaction. But the data segregation and management starts from within your own organizational corporate systems.
I would just add, as a last point, is obviously, the financial sector with whom we are working. If this was not secured, as Samir has just explained, we wouldn't even be able to connect. So there's a lot of, of going on the security. It's us, yes, it's us as a system, but we also need to be secure vis-a-vis the banks. Otherwise, they don't open the doors to us. So, and I mean, from a data transmission perspective and instructing the banks. So these things are highly technical.
Thanks, Samir and Carmen. I can see that we have a number of colleagues that are key contributor to this initiative and future, hopefully, users. And one of them is Paul Gavins, the treasurer of UNDP. I believe UNDP was the second or maybe the co-creator of this initiative, correct me if I'm wrong, but as one of the very first agencies that started engaging and collaborating on this area. So maybe we can recognize Paul, and Paul, maybe you can come in from the perspective of a user of this system. How did you find it so far, and what kind of message do you have to your peers in other agencies?
Great, thank you, Samir, and good to see everybody. And thank you, Carmen, for your leadership to kick this off 3 years ago. So as you mentioned, Samir, UNDP, along with Samir and Dharam and the UNICC team, ventured into this together, and it's been a great journey so far. And as some of the slides you've seen, it's more than just UNHCR and UNDP now. We have those other agencies also joining, and hopefully more as we go down the road. I think much good dialogue was talked about the efficiencies of UNHCR and UNDP getting payment rails up and running with Samir and Dharam and the team at UNICC. UNDP also has the SWIFT functionality. Carmen had mentioned SWIFT functionality, so UNDP does have that. We do have other agencies that UNDP also helps provide treasury or provides treasury services for. And all this data, the question that just came up about data segregation, it was a nice feature that Carmen and I worked with UNICC team is to ensure all the data is segregated. So I never see UNHCR's data, they never see my data. It's secure on however the technical servers work with FIS and all the security around the actual payment rails and the channels. So the host-to-host or the ISO formats we discussed are very secure to ensure that the payment gets where it needs to be securely. Same thing with SWIFT. Carmen really talked about some exciting stuff with AI and mobile payments and digital asset payments. There's really good stuff going on right now that I think all the UN system can piggyback off of and find efficiencies with what Carmen and the team led with, and others are following, including UNDP on the digital asset side. So I think it's really exciting, something that please reach out to Carmen and Dharam and myself, Malcolm at IOM and the WMO and ICAO folks, and now OECD. So see how the journey was for us, how we went about it, the steps we took to get where we are today. We're all of us are happy to discuss the journey, but UNDP has been very happy with the product, and we keep adding more payment rails as the years go on. And we're about to start year 4, January 9th, I think, was when we went live. So it's coming up on 3 years exactly. So we're going into year 4. It's a wonderful tool, and I think as far as sharing costs and the more that come on, I think when we talk HLCM F2 initiative that Carmen mentioned, I think this is really in the spotlight for other agencies where we can help from the DHoTS or the FIS Tracks platform to make these types. I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Paul, for your contribution and insights. We have about 7 minutes left from this session. Carmen, looking at the reform of business operations over the last decade, there has been so many individual initiatives that agencies started with. Then the Secretary General started the reform, and then a lot of streamlining happened in terms of global services, common back offices and all. And then we have now UNAT with far-reaching efficiencies that is really streamlining and bringing together all the good initiatives that agencies can work together. There was a question from one of our colleagues in terms of the alignment of Treasury Solutions with other initiatives, such as the share services you already mentioned a little bit about. Maybe you can expand on that. But there is also other initiatives within the far-reaching efficiencies, including payment and payroll. How do you anticipate to work with the lead agencies of these initiatives so that the DHoTS becomes a complementary contributor to what is being developed or considered.
Yes, so many wheels are turning, so we need to make sure we turn in harmony. So I think that, yes, of course, DHoTS is about collection. It's about collection of payments, of money, and also about payment and many more things like making sure that we have access to that ecosystem globally, markets. So whether it's a procurement initiative, whether it's a payroll initiative, I think at some point we always talk about, we always have a flow of money, the flow of data. So the two things, have to come together. I would even say digital ID. So because we have KYC, every time we make a payment, we have KYC. So more and more, we need to look at digital ID, how digital ID is really connected to all of this. So I would say a lot of things come together, and it's obviously it has something to do how we efficiently can collaborate. So we already looking at in this forum how from a treasury perspective and financially the financial professionals, the CFOs, how we can collaborate on this. But there's a wider collaboration to make this wheel turning. And yes, it touches, of course, when you look at payroll needs to have these rails because all of us want to be paid going forward. So so I think it comes together. Yes, it needs a little bit more work how we can actually have this collaboration, but I will make a note of it, of the other initiatives. But currently we are focused on our own one wheel to turn, which is already something to do, but more to do, no doubt.
If I can complement that from my perspective, as Carmen also spoke earlier, there are different corporate systems that might trigger payment. And that could be a procurement system or a payroll system or a cash disbursement system. So when there's a discussion happening about centralizing payroll and things like that, that's great and it needs to happen. This is the technical backbone behind the scenes that can then conclude that transaction or make that transaction happen in the most effortless, seamless way. So it's complementary. But clearly, with the treasurers, Carmen is the co-chair of the Treasury Network, I think, if I'm not misquoting it. So they are focusing on their responsibility, which is making sure that transaction goes through cleanly and can be accounted for, can be reported, etc. So I think they're complementary, is how I see it. Thank you.
Samir, thank you. Carmen, we have 2 more minutes. I wanted to give the opportunity to Samir and Carmen for any last 45-second message that you may want to pass in terms of the current and future perspective, and what do you expect from the colleagues that are on this call today?
So yeah, I would say
but it could not be more.
I would say to the colleagues, the future is now. We are fortunate to look at a tool that is already so far advanced. I would say you should ask yourself, what stops you from participating? You should engage. So we still have a few days in 25, but 26, you should get in contact with us, how we can, work together and make this work at this juncture of UN relevance and actually working smarter. We really have all homework to do and engage and take ownership. So I think colleagues, you should not be waiting for somebody to call you. It would be for you to call us and engage. So that would be my plea for today, to stay on this high road of professionalism and engage. Thank you.
Thank you, Carmen. And on my end, just to conclude, I think this model of a partnership and collective ownership is very important, and that will be required. And all of the HLCM work streams, for example, that's the aspirational direction they're all going towards. So this is a great example of something that is working, and as you heard from Paul and from Carmen, working really well for the last 3 years, going into year 4. As your shared service provider, I think we look at the leaders like the treasurers to drive the roadmap, to drive where this solution goes. We are here to support you all in this journey. But in 3 years, there are three plus years, because we started building this longer than 3 years ago. It's been live for 3. Many lessons learned, lots of knowledge gained that can be beneficial to the entire system. So I'll just reiterate Carmen's point. Please give us a shout. Let's find the right way to collaborate. And I saw a question from some people about ownership and board decisions. I think everybody has a voice on the board. That's the mechanism how UNICC operates. And it's a similar mechanism here where whoever is part of this consortium has a voice, has a seat at the table. So I think everybody collectively can be on this journey of rolling out AI, eventually agentic AI, new payments rails using crypto, stable coins, etc. So it's a very positive journey, and we welcome you all to join. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Samir. Thank you, Carmen, for your time. And colleagues, this concludes our informational webinar for 2025. We see you again in 2026. We wish you all the best and a Happy New Year. Thank you for joining us today. Have a good rest of the day before you finish.